There I was, a 38-year-old guy sitting at my desk, completely losing my mind staring at a quarterly financial forecast. It was one of those brutal, endless spreadsheets where all the numbers just start blurring together. Right in the middle of it, my phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from Lauren, my wife of 7 years. I picked it up, and out of nowhere, she drops a total casual grenade on me. It said, "Hey, just so you know, I'm filing for divorce next week. My lawyer will be in touch." Just like that. For a second, I couldn't even see the screen. My brain literally needed a hard reset. But look, I've always been a strategist. That's how I built my small tech startup from the ground up, and honestly, it's how I approached our marriage too. Lauren, on the other hand, was always more of a let fate decide type, or at least that's the act she put on. Personally, my suspicions had been building up for months. There were way too many late nights at her office. Her phone was suddenly locked down like Fort Knox, and she kept taking these weekend retreats to find herself. Then, the final straw happened last week. I noticed some weird, small withdrawals from an old joint account I thought we stopped using ages ago. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was a clear pattern. I'd had enough. So that Friday I went and met with my attorney, Ms. Claire. We pulled out our prenup, which, ironically, Lauren was the one who pushed for back then because her inheritance made her the richer one at the time. Ms. Claire looked it over and confirmed it was absolutely rock solid when it came to separate property. That included my company, which I started before we ever got married. Right then and there, I didn't waste any time. I started moving a massive chunk of my premarital assets and individual stocks into a brand new fund under my name only. Ms. Claire even drew up the divorce papers right on the spot, just so we had them ready to go in our back pocket. I guess, maybe naively, I had still hoped we'd have a real conversation or at least a confrontation about everything. I didn't want it to happen over a text message. But her text was the spark that lit the fuse. Before I even typed a reply to her, I called Miss Claire. I told her. She just made her move. Miss Claire didn't hesitate. She said, "File now. Let's rush it." "Done, Michael," she told me, her voice sharp and completely professional. Only after hanging up did I finally text Lauren back. I wrote, "No need to have your lawyer reach out. Mine is filing as we speak. The papers will hit your office by tomorrow." Immediately, my phone starts blowing up. "What? You filed? What the hell, Michael?" I typed back, "It's already in progress. The prenup is airtight, by the way. Hope you kept your copy." Man, I have to admit, a wave of petty satisfaction washed over me, and it felt incredibly right. Right after that, my investment advisor sent over the confirmations for all the trades. My personal portfolio was officially locked down and secured. I forwarded the confirmation straight to Lauren with the subject line, "For your information." It laid out every single one of my separate assets being reinvested, all completely legal under the terms she insisted on years ago. Lauren didn't reply. I took a screenshot, saved it to the cloud, and emailed it over to Miss Claire. I took a deep breath. Surprisingly, the initial shock was completely gone, replaced by a cold, crystal-clear focus. You see, that prenup was entirely Lauren's idea. I can still hear her saying, "Let's keep things tidy, darling." But over the years, my business thrived, while her inheritance dwindled away because of her obsession with designer bags and luxury spa retreats. Ms. Claire was practically grinning during our meeting. She told me, "This agreement is tight, Michael. If she tries to play dirty, it only helps our case to stick to the exact letter of the law." And Lauren's text was the definition of playing dirty. I spent the rest of that afternoon on the phone with Miss Claire, locking down every single account owned solely by me, changing passwords, and securing every last financial detail. I did feel a brief pang of sadness, remembering how she smiled on our honeymoon, but that memory was immediately wiped out by the image of her icy text message. She thought she was going to blindsided me next week. She was about to find out it was happening right now, completely on my terms. By the time Wednesday morning rolled around, I woke up feeling pretty steady. I checked my phone and saw a whole string of missed calls and furious voicemails from Lauren. She was screaming, "How dare you? That money is ours." Yeah, wrong answer, Lauren. Around midday, the official legal strike came in. I got an email from a guy named Mr. Robert Hayes, representing a Lauren Carter. She was already using her maiden name. The email was incredibly pompous and aggressive right out of the gate. He addressed it to a Mr. Andrews. The guy couldn't even get my name right. It's Michael. Or, well, pretty soon it'll just be Michael Andrews again. The email read, "It has come to our attention that you have initiated divorce proceedings in a deceitful and malicious manner. Your attempts to conceal marital assets through last-minute investment maneuvers will not hold up in court. My client was under extreme pressure when she signed the prenuptial agreement, and its validity will be fiercely challenged. We demand full transparency, significant spousal support, and 50% of your business interests by tomorrow evening. Noncompliance will result in immediate court action to freeze all known assets." I nearly laughed out loud reading it. Deceitful? Coming from the person who tried to dump me via text? Concealing assets? All I did was reinvest my own separate property according to the prenup she wanted, and the trades were started before she ever texted me. Pressure? She had her own high-priced lawyer and weeks to review the thing. She couldn't sign it fast enough back then. And 50% of my company? The contract explicitly states it's separate. Spousal support? Completely waived. I forwarded the whole email to Ms. Claire with a note. "Thought you'd like this. This guy is bold." She called me back almost immediately, laughing. "This is legal comedy gold, Michael. Let me handle Robert Hayes. He's about to get a very expensive lesson." On Thursday morning, Lauren actually showed up at the house. I was in the middle of a video call with my team when I saw her car pull into the driveway. I hit mute and told them, "Hey guys, take a quick break. Uninvited visitor just arrived." Then I heard the front door open. She used her old key. I cursed myself right then. In the absolute chaos of the last 36 hours, changing the door locks hadn't made it to the top of my urgent to-do list, even though I'd planned on it. Miss Claire had told me to focus on asset protection first. "Michael, we need to talk," she demanded, storming straight into my home office. "Lauren, I'm working," I said, keeping my voice level. "This isn't your house to barge into anymore. Miss Claire will coordinate a time for you to come get your personal items, and it will be supervised." "My lawyer says you're trying to rob me," she yelled. "That prenup isn't going to stand." "Oh, does he?" I replied. "Because Miss Claire thinks it's ironclad. You know, the exact same agreement you pushed for? The one protecting my company and my premarital assets, just like it was supposed to protect your inheritance?" Her face completely tightened up. "The money I spent was for us," she snapped. "Really? That $5,000 Gucci bag was for us? The solo spa trips? What about the secret account under your name that I wasn't supposed to find out about? Look, my finances are completely transparent under the terms of the prenup. I just hope yours are too." She went totally pale. "You can't prove any of that." "I don't need to prove it," I said, leaning back in my chair. "The prenup is clear. Separate property stays separate. My investments belong to me. You get your personal belongings, your car, which is completely paid off by me, by the way, so you're welcome, and exactly half of our joint savings account, which comes out to about $3,900. Her jaw literally dropped. $3,900? Are you out of your mind? I need financial support. The prenup waives spousal support. Lauren, we both had lawyers and nobody pressured you. You texted me your little divorce plan, and you made your choice. You just didn't expect that I had already made mine." Right on cue, the tears started. Honestly, I couldn't tell if they were genuine or just pure frustration. "You are so cruel, Michael," she sobbed. "Am I? Or am I just following the exact agreement we both signed? You set the tone for this, Lauren. What do you think about this? Would you have handled a sudden divorce text the same way? Or did he take the financial retaliation a bit too far?" Anyway, she just stormed right out of the room and slammed the front door so hard the walls shook. Then, complete silence. I felt that tiny pang of regret again, just for a brief second. But then her original text message replayed in my mind, along with all that sheer entitlement in her voice just now. The calm returned, and I went back to work. Miss Claire didn't waste any time. She fired off an email reply to Mr. Robert Hayes that was an absolute masterpiece of polite legal demolition. She cited specific clauses, broke down the numbers, and attached Lauren's signed acknowledgement proving she had independent counsel when we got married. Late Thursday, Mr. Hayes sent back a shorter, but still incredibly brash email. He doubled down on the pressure, now claiming the prenup was completely unfair because of our current asset disparity, conveniently ignoring the fact that Lauren actually had a much higher net worth than me when we signed the damn thing. Ms. Claire fired back another sharp response by the end of the day. The ball was right back in their rapidly shrinking court. By Friday morning, looking back at the 48 hours since Hayes' first email, things were really starting to unravel for them. Lauren's sheer sense of entitlement, which had been fueled by her lawyer's initial tough guy act, was crashing hard into reality. I actually got a call from the credit card company on Thursday. Apparently, Lauren had tried to report her card on our old joint account as stolen, claiming her vindictive husband had frozen it while she was trying to make some massive purchases. The bank didn't buy it and the card was declined. The fraud representative who called me was actually pretty sympathetic once I explained the situation. Then my actual bank called. She had walked right into a branch and tried to withdraw the full $7,800 from our joint savings. The teller instantly flagged it because Miss Claire had already moved fast on our end. Lauren apparently caused a massive scene right there in the lobby, yelling at the top of her lungs about it being her money. Mr. Hayes' latest angle, which he hinted at in his Thursday email, probably based on whatever desperate lies Lauren was feeding him, was that my new investments were made using joint funds. Miss Claire's response was swift and brutal. She told them to look directly at Schedule A of the prenup, which detailed my premarital assets, and Schedule B, which detailed Lauren's. The funds I used for the recent investment perfectly matched Schedule A, and we had every single brokerage statement to prove it. She ended the email by writing, "Perhaps your client is mistaken." That mistaken line was vintage Miss Claire. So, Friday morning, I'm sitting there sipping my coffee when my phone rings. It's an unknown number, so I let it go to voicemail. A second later, I get a text from Ms. Claire. "Mr. Robert Hayes' office is trying to contact you directly. Do not engage. He just called me." She said his voice was a few pitches higher than normal on the phone. It turns out our attached bank statements and ironclad proof had finally hit home. I couldn't help but crack a grim smile. The guy was panicking. It had been exactly 48 hours since his pompous Wednesday email. Perfect. I waited about 10 minutes and called Miss Claire back. "So," I said, "is Robert finally waking up to reality?" "Michael," she told me. "It seems Mr. Hayes, or at least a very sharp paralegal in his office, finally bothered to read the prenup alongside our statements. His exact words were, 'There appears to have been a significant misunderstanding of our client's representations regarding asset division.'" He sounded like he was literally choking on his tie. She went on to explain that Lauren hadn't told her own lawyer the full scope of what she had signed away years ago. She never mentioned that my investment account was strictly premarital property, or that all corporate growth was explicitly separate. Hayes tried to argue that it just wasn't fair, but Miss Claire reminded him that Lauren was the wealthier one at signing and had her own high-priced representation. He completely deflated. Then Miss Claire dropped the absolute gem of the conversation. She said Hayes timidly asked if I would consider renegotiating spousal support out of kindness, because Lauren was facing unexpected financial strain and had certain lifestyle expectations to maintain. I actually laughed out loud. Lifestyle expectations? After sending me a text message to end our marriage? I asked Miss Claire, "Did you remind him of that?" "Oh, I absolutely did," she said. "I told him her current strain is a direct result of her own actions and her failure to understand a binding contract she eagerly signed. I told him our kindness completely vanished the moment she sent that text and started throwing around baseless legal accusations." Hayes just mumbled something about discussing options with his client and hung up. He was done. Lauren had zero leverage. None at all. She had completely overplayed her hand, and now she was forced to face the exact terms of the agreement she created. She got her clothes, her car, and exactly $3,900. Meanwhile, my new investment fund? It was already up 3.5% in its very first week. That was a quiet little victory right there. A 3.5% return that Lauren would never lay a single finger on. And honestly, it wasn't even about the money. It was the principle of the thing. It was the entitlement, the arrogant assumption that she could just blow up our entire marriage via text and walk away with half of everything I built, despite the deal we made. My phone rang again a few minutes later. It was Mr. Hayes's office. I just let it ring. Let them stew. Her lawyer wasn't just panicking anymore. He was completely beaten. Lauren was finally learning a hard lesson about consequences. Flash forward 1 month later. It's been about 4 weeks since that infamous text message. The dust is finally starting to settle, and according to Ms. Claire, it's mostly settling into a thick layer of regret on Lauren's side. Mr. Robert Hayes, after his initial panic, tried a few more desperate, incredibly weak moves. He actually sent a letter claiming Lauren was suffering emotional distress from my hasty and cold divorce filing, completely ignoring the text she sent that sparked the whole thing in the first place. Ms. Claire countered it instantly, stating that preparing for a divorce amid suspected infidelity and financial secrecy isn't cold. It's just smart business. He even suggested that maybe I could offer a small, nominal settlement just to avoid the unpleasantness of court. My response through Ms. Claire was simple. The prenup is the settlement. There will be no further negotiation. Lauren didn't take that well at all. I started getting voicemails from her. First tearful, then angry, and then completely pleading. "Michael, please, we can fix this. I messed up," she'd say. Then the next one would be, "You're heartless, trying to leave me with absolutely nothing." And finally, "Okay, I get the prenup, but can't you just give me something? For old time's sake? I can't survive like this." Old time's sake didn't really extend to plotting to dump me over SMS. And claiming she had nothing was a massive exaggeration. She got to keep her car, which was a late-model SUV that I had completely paid off for her, so you're welcome. She got all her personal items, including a staggering, incredibly expensive collection of designer clothes, bags, and shoes. And she got her $3,900 from the joint account. The real blow for her, though, was my company. She genuinely believed, despite the prenup clearly stating it was my separate property, that she deserved a massive chunk of it just because she was my wife and supported me emotionally. Never mind the fact that her emotional support had been completely absent for nearly a year, replaced by veiled disdain and all those mysterious weekend retreats. Her lawyer finally caved last week. They officially signed the divorce agreement, exactly as the original prenup outlined. No spousal support, no claim on my company, and zero access to my investments or premarital assets. I heard from a mutual friend, well, someone who is now just my friend, that Lauren had to move in with her sister. It turns out that independent woman fund she had been secretly funneling money into wasn't nearly as big as she had hoped. Or maybe she had already spent it preparing for her planned future without me. And her inheritance? Turns out it had strict family restrictions she always downplayed, and her access to it completely shrank once her parents learned about the real circumstances of the divorce. They're pretty traditional people, big on loyalty and personal accountability, and they were not impressed with how she handled things. She apparently had a total meltdown when she realized her lifestyle was about to plummet. No more weekly salon visits, no more $1,000 shopping sprees, and no more fancy brunches she couldn't afford on her own salary, which, without my income backing it up, was stretched incredibly thin. She made one last, feeble attempt at manipulating me with a text a few days ago. It just said, "I'm struggling, Michael. I might lose my place. I don't know what to do." I didn't reply. I know it sounds cold. And look, a small, foolish part of me felt a quick flicker of pity. But then I remember the sheer arrogance of her original divorce text, her lawyer's initial bluster, and their attempts to paint me as the bad guy who was hiding assets and being unfair. She made her choice, a very costly, incredibly poorly planned choice. For me, life is a lot quieter and a whole lot calmer now. My company is doing great. That investment I made right before D-Day divorce day is still performing strongly. It's a nice little jab, I suppose, but the real win is just the peace of mind. I finally changed the locks on the house, and I'm making the place feel like mine again. It's honestly amazing how much mental space a toxic relationship takes up without you even realizing it. I finally have that space back for my work, for reconnecting with friends I had sidelined, and just for breathing. There's this strange lightness in my life now. The betrayal cut deep, deeper than I even wanted to admit to myself at first. 7 years with someone is going to leave a mark. But her casual cruelty, that initial text, sealed the wound faster than anything else could have. It made it easy for me to be methodical, to step back, and to just follow Ms. Claire's steps to protect what I worked for. Am I happy? Not in some loud, celebratory way. But I'm not miserable either. I'm content. I'm free. I held my ground. I stuck to the plan. And the consequences she's facing are exactly what she earned. Natural consequences, honestly, they're the best kind. Someone asked me recently if I felt guilty about how it all went down. I told them no, I just feel justified. She bet everything on what she thought was a winning hand, completely forgetting that I had already seen her cards, and that the prenup, her own idea, was my ace in the hole. So that's the story. No dramatic courtroom battles, no screaming matches. Well, at least not from my side. Just the quiet, calculated execution of a solid plan and a binding agreement. She started the whole thing with a text message, and I ended it with a signature. And honestly, I sleep pretty damn well these days.